All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast as we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus Brewers series, as well as the latest news and rumors in New York Mets land. But before we do that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for new episodes of our show that are recorded live after every single series of regular season games. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. For those of you in the live chat right now, we love reading your comments, your questions, your concerns. If you feel like you're being ignored, you're not. You're just going to be starred throughout the show. We'll try to pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok for my co-host Frank's instant reactions after every single regular season game, which are titled the Mets Frankly Postgame. For our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. It would be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into episode number 149 of our show. And it is just me today. Got no co-hosts. I'm obviously streaming on a very unusual time. Obviously, at 1 o'clock. Happy 4th of July to everyone out there, to all the Mets fans, even the Yankees fans, obviously with the Subway Series about 2 hours away from kicking off at Citi Field. But we obviously have to run down what has happened in these last few days. And let's just say it is better than what we have been getting as of recent. The Mets obviously in quite a skid. I'm pretty sure they have lost 14 of their last 20 games already leading up to today. So to get this series win against Milwaukee, it was needed, desperately needed. They needed it so bad that, that they were going to be in some deep trouble if it did not happen. And even though the Mets are in some really, really tough predicaments as of right now, this is probably the best that they can do, and they're going to just have to hold down the fort from now, because obviously we will get into the injuries, obviously, that have popped up, especially in the last 48 hours, that have just been completely nuts and have been big hits to the Mets pitching staff in general. But I mean, this is basically just this is the best that they have to offer as of right now. Obviously, I'm not here to sit here and panic. But obviously this is a day by day thing. And obviously it is very tedious as of right now, but there's not really much that they can do. Like we have said, over these past few weeks, I think I understand wanting to be very, very frustrated with this team, making some sort of moves. We will get into one later on, making sort of moves of some guys who have not been good recently, or they're just not good in general. To kind of fill the void as of right now as kind of quick fixes. It's mainly just because they can't really do anything. And even David Stern said, about the value on the trade market. Not everybody is just going to be suddenly traded as of right now, because you need to make upgrades to the team. They still have a few weeks to go until that trade deadline. So until that does happen, they're just going to have to ride out with what they have. I understand the thought process of, how they have gone about it. I'm not happy about it, obviously, because it's more on the unfortunate side of, we just have to do this and it's just going to have to happen. But it's whatever right now. I mean, they're just basically fighting to survive as of right now. And I feel like once they get to that All-Star break, they get a little bit healthier. Maybe it'll be a little bit more smooth sailing with some guys coming back. But right now, they're definitely going to have to hold a lot of weight, and it could be torture these next 9 games. I'm not going to lie. It could be a little bit rough to watch. Let's just say that. My boy Evan in the chat from Rangers Central. For those of you in here, make sure to hit the like button on the stream if you have not already. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people watching this on playback because it is 4th of July. I wish I didn't have to go live on 4th of July, but that's just kind of how everything lined up, with a night game yesterday and then a day game today, which I'm not really happy about doing, obviously, because I'm not really a fan of streaming in the afternoon. But this is just what we're going to have to go with. Obviously, like I said, the Mets, the hand that they are dealt, this is the hand that I'm dealt as well. So I'm just going to have to push through whatever uncomfortableness, obviously, that I have to, endure while recording these. And obviously, I'm doing them solo, so it'll probably be less than 2 hours, obviously, because usually I have co-hosts talking, but I don't today. So I think it's only right to get into the latest that has been going on, which, again, very, very hectic. It may have been, the calendar may have switched to July, but we are still in that June madness, the June slog, let's just say that. Obviously getting the series win, but there still is a need to build on it. And it's definitely a big emphasis as to the Mets obviously winning back-to-back games against Milwaukee, but they got to keep it going. They have no choice but to keep it going. And I'm not going to sit here and celebrate a series win when, they have plenty of work to do. Obviously, with falling down as much as they did in June, it's really it's really hard to just say that they're back into this whole swing of they're back into this whole swing of being this first place team that they were at the beginning, because again, this is going to be the day by day of trying to go 1-0 every single day, and hopefully they're able to do it. But it is going to be rough. I'm not gonna lie that it isn't going to be rough. So I'm glad that they got the series win. But again, any piece of competition, whether it's a good team or a bad team that you are playing, they are going to have to fight for these wins. As Evan says in the chat, can't play pretend now. We can't. We are getting a little bit deeper into the season now, and it's not like we can just sit here and say it's only April, it's only May, like we have said. The pointing out of red flags with this team, we have talked about it throughout the entirety of the entirety of the season before this recent skid started. I mean, there is a lot of baseball that they have been playing that has not been very, very good, and they were getting away with it a lot with their pitching staff bailing them out and being near perfect. Now the pitching staff has taken so many hits. There's been so many pieces of inconsistency recently. We saw last night David Peterson go the first time, pitch into the seventh inning, a first starting pitcher to pitch into the seventh inning in like a month. So again, we have seen some inconsistencies from the pitching staff that is definitely broken down recently. Hopefully it is a lot more healthy after the All-Star break, but we will see what happens there. But we've gotten some rough news these past 48 hours. So we will eventually get into that, but I do want to run down this Mets versus Brewers series, the Mets' first series win in about a month. It just, it hasn't been good. We all know it hasn't been, but at least the Mets were able to end off a series the right way. So let's get into this rundown of this 3-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers. We start with game 1, which after inclement weather wouldn't permit Tuesday's series opener, it would be converted to a day-night doubleheader on Wednesday, and Clay Holmes would get the start and settle in quick after surrendering a lead-off home run to Sal Frelick. He'd pitch into the 6th, but after a leadoff walk and getting the first out, he'd lead the game for Reed Garrett, who would allow his base runner to score on the first pitch that he threw, closing the book on Holmes. 5 1/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 walks, 1 strikeout on 90 pitches, down 1-0 in the 3rd after a hit by pitch to Jeff McNeil, followed by a single from Luis Torrens to make it 1st to 3rd. Brett Baty would tie the game with an RBI sacrifice fly. The Mets would take the lead in the 4th after a leadoff walk by Soto and a stolen base. Pete Alonso would collect his 66th RBI of the year to give the Mets a 2-1 lead on an RBI single. However, fast forward back to the 6th inning, surrendering a walk. Reed Garrett, after surrendering a walk and a hit, would set up the big blow, a grand slam to Joey Ortiz, giving Milwaukee a 6-2 lead. Brandon Waddell would pitch the rest of the game, tallying 1 earned run across 3 innings on 50 pitches to save the bullpen workload, but the Mets would drop game 1 of the series and game 1 of the doubleheader 7-2. In game 2 of the doubleheader, Huskar Brazaban would start as an opener, tossing a scoreless first inning on 19 pitches, working around a 2-out walk, but he'd hand the game to Mets pitching prospect Blade Tidwell, who'd shut down Milwaukee until the 6th, where he'd surrender back-to-back solo home runs to Christian Yelich and Jackson Chourio. He'd get the first out, but after an infield single, he would be pulled from the game for Danel Nunez. He would come on and finish the inning, but not before allowing his runner to score to close the book on Tidwell. 4 1/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts on 80 pitches in the Met. As for the Mets offense, it would finally come awake in the second, jumping all over the rookie phenom Jacob Misiorowski after back-to-back 2-out walks to Brett Beatty and Ronnie Mauricio. Hayden Sender would reach on an infield single to load the bases, and Brandon Nimmo would come through, giving the Mets a 4-0 lead with a grand slam to right field, his 16th home run of the year. Francisco Lindor would go back-to-back with Nimmo with his 17th home run of the year, extending the Mets lead to 5-0, up 5-3 in the 6th after a leadoff walk to Ronnie Mauricio and a successful sacrifice bunt by Hayden Sanger. Francisco Lindor would plate his second RBI of the game to make it 6-3. Richard Lovelady would get the 7th and toss a 1-2-3 inning with a strikeout. Ryan Stanek would come in for the 8th, and he'd strike out 2, but allow 2 base runners on a leadoff single and a 2-out walk, forcing Carlos Mendoza to go to Edwin Diaz for 4 outs, and Diaz would get the final out in the 8th, striking out Jake Bauers. The Mets would add some insurance shortly after a 1-out walk to Hayden Sanger. Travis Jankowski would pinch run for him, setting up Francisco Lindor for his 3rd RBI of the game, an RBI double to score the speedy Jankowski and give the Mets a 4-run lead. Edwin Diaz would come back out for the 9th, tossing a 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts to secure a desperately needed win for the Mets in Game 2 of the doubleheader, 7-3. David Peterson would make the start in Game 3 and provide much needed length for the Mets, pitching into the 7th inning, but unable to finish the inning after surrendering a solo home run to Andrew Monasterio. And after another hit, he'd be pulled for Ryan Stanek, who'd finish the 7th to close the book on Peterson. 6 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 1 unearned run, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts on 103 pitches. Brandon Nimmo would open up the scoring in the 2nd with his 17th home run of the year to make it 1-0 Mets, tied 1-1 in the 6th after back-to-back 1-out singles by Starling Marte and Francisco Lindor. To make it 1st to 3rd, Juan Soto would give the Mets the lead with an RBI single. Pete Alonso would add on with an RBI double of his own, his 67th RBI of the season, to extend the Mets lead to 3-1. Ryan Stanek would come back out for the 8th and strike out the side. Edwin Diaz would get the 9th, and with help from a caught stealing from Luis Torrens and a incredible tag by Mets shortstop Francisco Lindor, he'd notch his 18th save of the year with 2 strikeouts to secure the Mets' first series victory since June 11th with a Game 3 win, 3-2. The Mets are now 50-38 on the season, sitting a game and a half back behind the Phillies for first place in the National League East. So obviously, some takeaways in this series. We start with Game 1, of course. It pretty much seemed like the same old of what we've been seeing these past few weeks with this team. It has been offensively starved, maybe a few solo shots here and then, but nothing crazy, not what the offense is capable of that we know, but they've struggled all year with consistency. And then, of course, the avalanche inning, this time off the mound from Reed Garrett, who looked just absolutely awful and took them completely out of the game with nearly like 4 pitches. I'm pretty sure the first pitch that he threw, he gave up Clay Holmes' inherited runner. And then I'm pretty sure it was like 3 hits and 4 pitches. And then Joey Ortiz hit that grand slam to basically just bury them completely. Another great outing from Brandon Waddell, who was able to eat innings. He's definitely been that cleanup guy who can just save up some of the innings. Obviously, with him being stretched out as a starter, he's had that ability. He doesn't walk anybody. He's a strike thrower. So again, he's able to go the distance and basically just wear it until the end of the game to save the bullpen from its usage, which obviously this bullpen has. This bullpen's taken a lot of hits, especially today. We will get into those, but again, when it gets to game 2 of this doubleheader, obviously they needed to win this game. And they were able to come through. Huskar Brazaban's third time being an opener this year. Again, Blade Tidwell looked better. He did look better. Still is rough around the edges. Still needs to throw a lot more strikes. He was losing the strike zone towards the end there in the 6th, toward the end of the 5th. But we know the swing and miss stuff is there. We don't know what his future is going to be as a major league starter, and I think the Mets kind of agree with that in that way. Obviously, with the amount of times that they're just optioning him to AAA, because usually when you have a top pitching prospect, you have a pitching prospect or any type of pitching prospect, you call them up to keep them there. You call them up to stay up for good. And that's been the case for a lot of prospects, and they've actually talked about it for good with guys like Nolan McLean, which people have been questioning as to why they're not calling him up. It's probably the main reason as to why they just want to, have him stay up and not just go up and down from AAA Syracuse to the major leagues and kind of get into that routine of becoming a major league starter. Obviously, Brandon Nimmo, what a series. Let's just say that he has been on a tear ever since moving into that 2 spot. He actually led off in one of these games. We actually had 3 different leadoff hitters, I'm pretty sure, in these 3 games. You had Lindor in game 1, Brandon Nimmo in game 2, and then Starling Marte led off in game 3, which we all know I'm not very fond of because I really think that he's a bottom part of the order type of guy to anchor it, especially with the lack of depth we have had there. But for some reason, we just continue to rely on Starling Marte because it seems like they trust him with the world, being able to bat him clean up and batting 5th and putting him 2 sometimes. I don't understand why we need to give him that big of a role, but it's whatever. It's not like he's completely uncompetitive, though. He was okay in this series, let's just say that. Juan Soto finally had a wrist success in that 3rd game, obviously. David Peterson, really good bounce back outing from him, obviously. He has definitely had a spike in the walks recently. We know that was one of his main problems going into the league at the beginning of his career, but recently in this stretch, since that hip surgery, when he came back, he hasn't been walking that many guys. However, these last 3 starts, the walks have started to flare up. He's been allowing a lot of base runners as compared to what he was doing in that incredible stretch that he had, obviously, of basically like 200 innings, I'm pretty sure, dating back to the beginning of 2024 or 2023. Is it 2023? Maybe something around there. Since the hip surgery, let's just say that. But really good bounce back outing from him. Obviously, Edwin Diaz was very sharp in this series as well. Obviously, last night, for those of you who are watching, that big caught stealing by Luis Torrens with Edwin Diaz on the mound. We know that runners will go all over Edwin Diaz because he's very, very slow to get to the plate. That's one of his worst qualities, obviously, as a pitcher, no matter how elite the stuff may be. And we all know that Edwin Diaz is my favorite Met. So when I'm saying that, I'm being honest in that way. But he really does, struggle holding runners. It's always been like that. But it looked like that play was not going to be overturned, but it ended up getting overturned. An incredibly smooth tag by Francisco Lindor. And I said this on Twitter last night. It's those little things like that Francisco Lindor does that just, basically proves to you how special of a player that he is. And yes, he has been struggling recently. We've seen rough stretches from him at the plate, but the intangibles, the overall tools, what he does for this team on a regular basis, the impact is very, very noticeable. And whether you want to minimize it to the point of him not hitting, that's on you. We've already have gone through this enough with Francisco Lindor. He has been here now for 5 years, and I believe that he will start to get going because he always ends up getting going, and he's definitely come through for this team a lot. So we will see. It seems like he has done okay from that 2 spot. Being back in the 2 spot, he was leading off, obviously, and that was like the big change that he made last year. Turned him into basically an MVP candidate, finishing second in the MVP race. But there definitely was, he definitely looked a little bit more comfortable at the plate. I'm glad to see them consider Nimmo as a leadoff hitter too. That's fine. You don't have to completely, commit to something, but I do agree that some way in the top 4 obviously needs to be Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo in any sort of order. Some you may like more than others, but in any sort of order, put that in there. No Starling Marte in the top 4. That just does not belong there. It's just not something that they need. Whether he's producing or not, it's just not something that belongs in the top of the order with the minimal type of impact that he can make. I just think that he's better batting 6th or 7th. It's just better to anchor the bottom of the order that has really, really struggled, which is full of kids. We will get into one guy who has really, really struggled all season. But again, great series win by this team. They definitely played a lot better as compared to what we have been seeing recently. Obviously, there still is some rough around the edges types of things. That first game was pretty much, like I said, a kind of a repeat of what we were seeing for quite a while, obviously, with the blow up inning and the offense being very, very stagnant. It seems like Pete started to get a little bit of his groove going, but he had a few rough ABs as well. Like I said, Brandon Nimmo, excellent series. Lindor was a lot better. Juan Soto continues to get on base, obviously. And then it seemed like the rest of this lineup was pretty much silent. Tyrone Taylor has really, really struggled recently. And it does go to show that he definitely is not an everyday player, and he's a 4th outfielder. We know that that's what he's able to provide, and he's pretty much playing every day with Jose Siri out. Obviously, the Mets not wanting to rush Gilbert up here with his either its injury history or just the fact that he has been struggling a little bit in AAA to no note that they're like, okay, he is ready to come up here. Even though I think that eventually they will make that call, we will see. Or maybe he is someone who they just want to keep in AAA and he's looked at as a trade piece, which the trade deadline is coming up. I do think that Drew Gilbert is going to be looked at as one of the trade pieces at the trade deadline. I don't know if he's going to be the only one. I don't know if he is going to be the one that gets traded out of all the prospects, but I do think that Drew Gilbert is going to be on the table during the trade deadline, and I have a lot of reasons for that, obviously, but I'm not going to get into that just yet. We'll get into the trade deadline stuff when that does come, obviously. We're getting very, very close to it, but we all know that there are moves that this team does need to be needs to make, and I think we all would be disappointed if they weren't as aggressive. And I think that it definitely was a point of the matter to the fact that the Mets kind of had that evaluation soft buy, if they believed in this team, if they didn't. I think a lot of people had that speculation of if Stearns actually believed that this team could be a contender with one trade deadline. It probably was not as possible with that, with basically how stacked the Dodgers were. But again, I do think when you bring in Juan Soto, you got to go all in on this one. It all really depends where they are at with the trade deadline. It's going to be a rough stretch into it. But I do think right now I'm still in the buy mode. I am still in that impactful mode right now. But, if they were to continue to fall, then we're going to have to talk about some other things that they might have to regard to do, because if you look at this NL wildcard race outside of the division, with the Phillies playing better baseball than the Mets recently, it is pretty tight. So we will see if the Mets continue and if they drop or if they rise. Obviously, the division is still in play. But again, a team like the Brewers, they are like right on the Mets' heels. The Mets may have finished this series ahead of them, obviously, with winning the head-to-head. But I'm pretty sure the Brewers, as of right now, a team that, always seems to be in that contention for the wild card. Let's see, that would be the wild card. Yes. So the Brewers are a game and a half behind the Mets as of right now. The Mets have a 3-game lead on the Padres for the first wild card as of right now. So right now it is Dodgers, Cubs, Phillies as your division leaders. It is Mets, Brewers, and Padres for the it seems for the seeding right now. If the season were to end today, there's also a 3-way tie right now for that final wildcard spot, with the Giants and the Cardinals playing pretty well. The Giants playing well recently, and then the Cardinals kind of slowing down a little bit recently, but they have also played some really good baseball too. And then right after that, you have a game and a half with the Cincinnati Reds, who have been on fire recently. I mean, this is going to be a tight race. It definitely will. I think there's a little bit of a cutoff there with Arizona, the way that they have been plagued with injuries. Their bullpen has definitely gotten hurt. Their rotation is banged up as well. So we'll see who the sellers are, obviously, on the market. And even after that, the Miami Marlins are red hot. So who the hell knows what will happen there? They're in third place right now. Obviously have a quiet gap to get to with the Mets in front of them. But again, this is going to be a tight race when you get to this trade deadline. And I am excited to see what they do have in store. And I'm hoping that the expectations are somewhat met. That would be absolutely awesome. Let's just say that. But again, when it comes to the situation with the lineup, I do want to get into this a little bit more. Obviously, the approach in Game 3 could have been better. There was a lot of staring at strikes. Let's just say that, with runners in scoring position, including the guy we're going to talk about in a second. But there still just have been some uncompetitive ABs. We have seen Juan Soto do a little bit better with runners in scoring position over these past few games, so hopefully that sticks. But that's definitely been a struggle. It's been a struggle for the entirety of the team this year. And, 2 wins is not going to completely blow past what that situation is. Obviously, you go into how they construct this lineup. I think that there are, a lot of holes. There are a lot of holes in the lineup, obviously, with Luis Torrens struggling the way that he is at the catcher position, with Alvarez in AAA, Hayden Sanger getting part-time as well. The young guys have also not been great. Brett Beatty has been very, very streaky. He had that big stretch, of course, since getting recalled up and around May. And then recently, he really has just returned to form, but he's played really, really good defense at third base, which has merited his playing time to be the starting third baseman. Ronnie Mauricio, it looks like he's starting to get a little bit more patient at the plate. I believe that in this series alone, he drew like 4 walks. So that's pretty impressive, especially from a guy like Ronnie Mauricio, who at times will definitely swing at almost anything there is to offer near the strike zone. And, walking Ronnie Mauricio is usually something that you don't see, but it looks like his walk rate so far is almost near 10%. So that's definitely impressive, especially from someone who lifetime, even in the minor leagues, was never even getting over 7% walk rate. Obviously a small sample size, but let me just check here. Yeah, he's been drawing more walks recently, so that's definitely good. Let's just say that being a lot more patient at the plate. Yeah, he had 4 walks Yeah, he had 4 walks in this series. 3 walks, 3 walks. That one of them was in Pittsburgh. 3 walks, and those were he's had yeah. So he's definitely been a little bit more patient. Obviously, at the plate, we know that Francisco Alvarez has been tearing the cover off the ball in AAA. I'm not really sure what Luis Angel Acuna is up to. I definitely can look that up. But there is one guy that I do want to get into and talk about specifically, and that being the other young guy who has had the most success so far at the major league level. So far, Luis Angel Acuna not doing that much. The power's not there, making a decent amount of contact. I guess he's slashing 276, 324, 345 so far, 73 weighted runs created plus at AAA. He's had 35 plate appearances so far since being demoted. So again, that's basically what you get from Luis Angel Acuna. Not really the bat that I think everybody thought that he would be after those 10 games he had coming up last year. So again, the young guys, we do want to get into a discussion with them, obviously, before the trade deadline, because there's probably going to be some things addressed with these young guys, with the leeway that they have gotten and the amount of playing time that they have gotten across from Beatty and Acuna, because Acuna got a decent amount of sample as well. Ronnie Mauricio is back up here. So we'll see how they address the young guys, and we'll also see how they address Drew Gilbert, like I said. But I do want to talk about one young guy. I don't know if we can consider him a young guy because he's 25 years old right now. But, you know, one of the baby Mets, the original baby Mets, who has been just, I mean, he's been brutal. Mark Vientos, just a brutal start to this season. Obviously, it has been a tough one for him. He's been very, very, not really very inconsistent, just overall mediocre in general, and at times just looks completely lost. So I do want to get into a little bit of a rundown here, because he did have, you know, a full year last year, or somewhat of a full year last year, because he came up in May, and he was great, and he was fantastic. You know, it was a fantastic hitting performance for him. But then they were talking about, you know, everybody does, you know, the sophomore slump, the sophomore jinx, you know, the age old story of, you know, pitchers starting to figure out, and the first big wave of adjustments that the young player does to get back into the swing of things. However, with Mark Vientos, to be honest, right now, I'm really not seeing a slump. I'm really seeing a year 2 free fall. Like, this is nothing like the Mark Vientos we were seeing last year, and it's getting a little bit concerning. 227 plate appearances that he's had so far. He's obviously a big strikeout victim at 25% K rate, which I'm pretty sure it was higher as it fluctuated with him getting more sample. Obviously, he missed 3 weeks of game action due to a right hamstring strain, and he was activated from the IL last week, but you know, ever since he has come back, he'd look like exactly like the same Mark Vientos that left and was struggling at the plate and has been really, really bad to start off the year. So throughout the first half of the season, it just has not been good for him. He's not, which is the most concerning part of this. He's not really hitting the ball hard, which has been the most redeeming quality from him as a hitter or as a player overall, because if he doesn't hit, he's not going to give you any value. But the hard hit rate is in the 64th percentile, so it's still above average, obviously. But you know, the EVs are down. He's chasing even more. He's lots of swings and misses. He is late on fastballs, off-speed pitches. They are just completely torching him with those. And then obviously not finding the barrel zone as well, mainly because he's hitting the ball a lot on the ground. He's popping up a lot, and then also just a lot of swing and miss. And then, of course, the big culprit throughout this entire team, but at the top of that list, would be Mark Vientos with runners in scoring position. He has a 63 weighted runs created plus. He is 7 for 53 this year, which is a team worst with runners in scoring position. But the main reason as to why this is such a concern, like I said, when you look at the overall production of what you are getting from Mark Vientos and what you know what type of player he is, he has to hit in order to be productive. Because like we are saying right here, 358 defensive innings at third base. He has a -10 defensive run save and a -7 outs above average, which is worse among third baseman, even with missing 3 weeks. So he is just in another level of bad, and he's basically looked to be a DH this year. He's played like a DH. However, he's been a DH that hasn't been hitting. And he is, right now sitting at an 82 weighted runs created plus, only 15 extra base hits. The power it's been nowhere to be found. Like I said, with him not even hitting the ball hard as much as it has. This has just been a complete fall off from what we saw last year. Usually when you see these sophomore slumps, you see these sophomore jinxes or whatever you want to call it. It's one of those scenarios where it's just a complete fall off. This is not even anywhere close to what we were seeing from Mark Vientos, and it is definitely concerning in the fact of him being, 25 years old, of what habits he does adapt. But these are just awful ABs that he has been putting, he's been putting together. Lots of swing and miss, late on everything, off-speed pitches. Like I said, he has a whiff rate over 60, I'm pretty sure, against off-speed pitches. He is just not tracking anything. Like I said, pitch recognition has been awful. Pitch selection, the overall swing decisions, it's just been really, really bad. He had an AB last night where the Mets had a chance to break the game open. They were up 3-2, second and third, 2 out, and Mark Vientos just stares at a pitch in the lower middle of the zone. He had no idea what was coming. He was just sitting there up there guessing, desperate to get anything. And that's just not the Mark Vientos that we were seeing last year, and it's definitely concerning. Now, I don't know if I'm ready to just sit here and, go to a point of, well, Mark Vientos should just be sent down to AAA because he's obviously just not producing whatsoever. And it is definitely hurting the team with him not doing well defensively, with Beatty playing better defense at third base. So he pretty much has that position locked in per value. So when it comes to Mark Vientos, he obviously has to hit in order to give you that type of value, and he just has not been doing that. And he was excellent last year as to why he was such a valuable part. He was hitting with runners in scoring position. He was hitting the ball hard. We were seeing a definitely a different dip in terms of batted ball data, because I just showed you just the rundown of this year. But if you want to compare it to last year, it is definitely a drastic gap from last year. And listen, I know that a lot of people have talked about with his swing decisions of it not being sustainable, which I do understand. I do understand that because at the same rate, he still is hitting the ball as hard. He is still hitting the ball hard, getting hard hits, obviously, but he just is not getting that, that top line, that top line exit velocity he was getting last year. Last year, with his exit velocities, 82nd percentile in average exit velocity. This year it is 60. Max exit velocity, which is a one sample, obviously, that is 88, 64 this year. Hard hit percentage, 80th percentile. This year it is 68. The biggest concern that I do have here is in 2024, 50th percentile in overall calculated bat speed, which is a StatCast metric, obviously, which, who's quick to get to the ball. And this year it has gone down to the 26th percentile. So I don't know if his bat is slower. That doesn't really make much sense to me. I don't know how that really is a thing. For it to be just such a drastic jump. Obviously, he barely played in 2023, but it was 73 percentile in bat speed in 2023, 50 last year, and then this year it's 26th percentile, which I'm not understanding what's going on here. I don't know if this has to do with the certain factor that we all have been pointing out and been begging for the Mets to move on from. I don't know if it has to do with that. But right now, it's looking very concerning. Let's just say that. And it comes to a point of, is this guy healthy Like, does he have, like, is he not 100%? Because usually you don't see a dip in these types of raw tools from 24 years old to 25 years old, which it just makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't know what has been going on with Mark Vientos. I hope he figures it out soon, because we can definitely use that, at least, 60% of that Mark Vientos from last year, who was just excellent. But it's just been quite a downward spiral, let's just say, for Mark Vientos these last few months to start the season. He really, really has struggled. It seems like he's not letting it get into his head, though. He has talked about it. He's staying humble. He's staying calm. He's not, overthinking things. But, it still gets to a point where, is this guy adding things to your roster? Is he adding things to your lineup? Right now, he has been pretty unrosterable as of right now. I mean, he's shown some things. He's shown some. Recently he started to hit better as compared to what he was doing in April, which was just beyond brutal. But it still has just been a really, really rough go for him. And I just don't know how the Mets are, going to address this, in terms of the young guys. And we'll see how it does get addressed at the trade deadline of whichever, pieces they decide to get rid of. Mark Vientos may be somebody who's put into consideration. Obviously, his value is low. His value was low, but even when he was hitting, because he is a third baseman who doesn't play defense, can't run the base. Like, he doesn't give you any other value besides being a power threat. So again, it's definitely limited value there. Is it in the JD Davis territory? It's somewhat getting there. It definitely is, to where he's playing like a DH, and then when he moved to DH, he just, he's just still not producing, and it's been quite the struggle for Mark Vientos just in general, and it's rough to see him go through it. Because of how good he was last year. We know he's capable of more. I don't think there really was any adjustments to the game, but maybe adjustments to his game that he kind of just needs to iron out. Will that have to be in AAA Syracuse? If this continues the way that it is, possibly, maybe, I don't know. But at some point, they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do, because right now, Vientos is just, he's just not cutting it right now. And there have been definitely some days where they have just been outright benching him. I'm pretty sure, I think he's in the lineup tonight. Is he? Or today? I think he's in the lineup. He may be, let's see. He's not in the lineup tonight. So again, it's definitely been, part-time type of things. And, we could definitely use some DH production from a guy like Mark Vientos. But we just have not been getting it. And it just, it's really been concerning. So I'm definitely, I'm pausing. I'm not trying to completely panic here. But it's definitely something to look out for when it comes to, going forward with, Mark Vientos and the trajectory of his future with this team of, is he going to show what he was last year, or is this just going to be this flash in the pan type of thing where he just can't continue that consistency, and they're going to have to look elsewhere in the department to help the lineup? Because if they can get some stuff from Vientos, that would be fantastic, but we're going to have to see it. He's going to have to execute it. And right now he is just not either in the right headspace, or he's just not, in the right realm of what he was doing last year. Cause there is a drastic change. Usually, again, you see these hitting tools on display. We saw guys like, I don't want to compare him to Mark Vientos, but we've seen, guys like, Pete Alonso struggle, in his second year. Obviously, he had his slump in the pandemic year, so it was okay. He had the sophomore slump, but he still was hitting the ball hard. He still had all the tools on display. He just The swing decisions were not great. He was striking out a lot. It just wasn't a great year for him. And, 2020 was so ridiculous that we just kind of throw it out the window. But even, other guys like Aaron Judge. I mean, I don't want to put Aaron Judge in the same conversation as Mark Vientos, but, Aaron Judge, even though he, had a great rookie year, he slowed down a little bit. Like the production was not there, but he still was displaying those same tools that we were seeing him as, a rookie sensation that he was. What was it, 2017 or 2016? He was a rookie, but it just, he was just a little off a little bit, and he had to make those adjustments. So again, hopefully that's what happens. But again, I don't know. I am concerned here regarding with Mark Vientos, because it's really, really rough to just say, well, it's really, really rough just to say, oh, well, he'll bounce back. He's done it before. Again, for the underlying stuff that we are seeing, like I said, with the batted ball data and things like that, it is a drastic change from last year. And I don't know what the deal is as of right now. But they're going to have to try and figure something out with Mark Vientos. And if that does require him going down to Syracuse, so be it. So be it. We saw something similar happen to a guy named Michael Conforto. I don't know if you guys remember that. Obviously, this is a completely different scenario here, but Conforto was called up in the middle of the season in 2015. He was great for them. He was big in the World Series, big in the playoffs for them, just like Mark Vientos was. And then the next year, he just completely, was getting bullied by left-handed pitching. He did not do well, and then he ended up getting sent down to AAA Syracuse for a little bit of a reset. And maybe that's something that he does end up needing. But we'll see how this continues to go. Obviously, over 200 plate appearances now. I think that the Mets are going to wait until they get a full decision or a full update on guys like Jesse Winker, who is also a DH option, who will eventually come back, but not yet. We'll see what happens in regards to Mark Vientos and how they kind of fix this thing up. I'm definitely interested to see how they form this roster before the deadline, after the deadline. I'm very intrigued to see how they address these types of needs that they have, because they definitely have a good base here. It's been inconsistent, but it's all really up to these guys to perform at this point. But it's all about really them just getting healthy and getting to a point where they're in the spot to compete by the deadline, which, like I said, is going to be rough. It's going to be a rough road, especially to this All-Star break with plenty of guys out and, 2 rotation spots right now completely empty, which we will get into. But I do want to get into, the injury report right now with more injuries coming in and folding in. We can even add on to this injured list, so I will try to give as many updates as I possibly can. But let's get into the injury report. Frank is not here, so I'm obviously going to have to fill in for him. So we'll start off with Mets starting pitcher Kodai Senga. He is expected to make a rehab start for Double-A Binghamton this weekend after facing live hitters earlier this week and throwing a bullpen session yesterday. The 32-year-old right-hander is currently on the 15-day injured list due to a low-grade right hamstring strain that he suffered after jumping for a high throw while covering first base. Mets starting pitcher Sean Manaea made another rehab start for Double-A Binghamton on Wednesday night, tossing 3+ innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts on 60 pitches, although the initial thought was that this would be his final rehab start. Mets manager Carlos Mendoza reported that Manaea will throw another rehab outing next Tuesday, as they expect Manaea to return on pace to the Mets rotation for the last game before the All-Star break against the Kansas City Royals. The 33-year-old veteran southpaw has been sidelined since the beginning of spring training due to a right oblique strain. Mets starting pitcher Paul Blackburn has been placed on the 15-day injured list due to a right shoulder impingement. The 31-year-old right-hander has been shut down from throwing over the last three over the next 3 to 5 days, as Carlos Mendoza specified that the injury does not seem to be in relation to Blackburn resuming the second inning in Pittsburgh after that prolonged rain delay where everything fell apart. Mets reliever Denel Nunez has been placed on the 15-day injured list due to a right elbow strain. Mets president of baseball operations David Stearns said that Tommy John surgery is a possibility for Denel Nunez, as this injury does involve the ligament in his elbow, with severity unknown at the moment. The 28-year-old right-hander will seek multiple opinions from doctors before a decision is made. And it looks like with Denel Nunez, it seems like he is going to go next week. Obviously, with the holiday, it seems like that has been interrupting his possibility of going to multiple doctors. So we're going to have to wait on Denel Nunez, but definitely a rough blow there if he does end up needing Tommy John, a rough blow to the Mets bullpen. And then there was also another one that just popped up before I even went live, like a few minutes before. Jose Butto is also going to the injured list. And he has a certain illness, has not been specified, I guess, out of the respect for privacy. Out of respect for his privacy, they're not specific, specifying it, but he has somewhat of an illness. It looks like Tyler McGill is going to start throwing this week. And then, of course, Kodai Senga, like I said. So definitely a rough blow. Obviously, Denel Nunez being as great as he was last year, and then having multiple injured list stints, coming back and then getting injured once again. We missed him for the second half. And then they did a slow ramp up for him. He gets back, struggles a little bit. Then he started to feel it a little bit. And now it is possible that he needs Tommy John surgery, which is just a brutal blow to the Mets bullpen that has taken so many hits, especially these last few weeks. We obviously have Minter and Young out for the season. We know that Brooks Raley eventually will be coming back, but he is currently not available. We lost Max Kranick. We've lost multiple guys in that bullpen. Now Denel Nunez. I mean, it has definitely been a rough situation right now. Because the Mets, I believe, right now lead the majors in players on the injured list. I think a few of them are just rehabbing guys, but you have Madrigal, Siri, Winker, Blackburn, Canning, Minaya, McGill, Scott, Senga, Butto, Kranick, Nunez, Minter, Brooks Raley, Drew Smith, obviously, who was signed in the offseason recovering from Tommy John. And then, of course, Denel Nunez on Tommy John surgery. I mean, they have so many guys out as of right now, especially in the pitching staff, which is really, really hurting. And that'll obviously show with some of the pitching matchups that we have queued up right now. And it's definitely, it's not going to get any easier from there. In terms of all of these injuries. We're hoping that, Minaya can come back in that Kansas City Royals series, but you still have 8 games to go in between that. I believe that, Kodai Senga will be back at the end of the All-Star break or after the All-Star break. So I don't think they're really rushing that much. But we did just get an update on Twitter as we speak that he will be throwing 60 pitches in his next one. So obviously we know that the Senga injury was not as serious. It was a low-grade hamstring strain. We dodged a bullet there. But so it seems like the ramp up is either going to be 1 or 2 rehab starts, and then he will be back here for the, he will be back here for the, second half of the season, because we definitely need him, obviously, with the state of the rotation and massive flux with, needing replacements and then some of the replacements going out. So they definitely have a lot of guys to wait out to try and get healthy. We'll see how they establish the rest of the rotation again at the deadline. But, right now it's definitely looking rough, and I'm not going to sit here and say that everything is okay, because it's not. I mean, right now it's a really rough situation, and right now we are really, you know, desperately every day making these roster moves. And when that happens, you see there's a lot of injuries happening right now with the pitching staff. Obviously, the lineup doesn't have as big of an excuse, as inconsistent as they've been this year. But, you know, deepening the lineup too. We'll see how, you know, they do with the young guys of this lineup. But Winker definitely will be a boost to this lineup. He's not, you know, very, you know, he's not a big world record, but he definitely, you know, he can deepen this lineup. And he does have a really good approach that is really good with runners in scoring positions. So I do think he will help this lineup. Will it be, you know, otherworldly? No, but he definitely will deepen this lineup to the best of his abilities. But, you know, the rotation, it's rough as of right now. And I understand, you know, the frustration with Mets fans wanting to say, oh, well, call up Nolan McLean, call up Brandon Sproat. Listen, I know everyone wants them up there because they probably are better options than the guys that they are putting out. However, again, the workload of a major league starter is a lot different. There's concern right now. Nolan McLean, obviously there's always concern with every single pitcher, but Nolan McLean is still ramping up from, you know, being a reliever the way that he was. Obviously, it seems like he's making the adjustment fine, but he was a reliever in college. He was actually a two-way player, but he was a reliever in college, so he still is trying to build up the innings on his arm. Brandon Sproat, he's struggled a lot recently in AAA. He's been very inconsistent. He's had some good outings, actually, in AAA Syracuse. And I was getting a little concerned what was going on in regards to his health, because it seemed like his velo was dropping, but it looks like the last few starts he's been touching 98, 99. So that's pretty good to see. But again, you know, it's all about the sake of consistency. I think that Blade Tidwell is the next guy on the pecking order, but he is most likely not going to be available to line up in this upcoming Yankees series. So they're just going to have to piece some things together, and hopefully they can get it going. But we will get into that series going forward. You know, we'll see how they, how they address this roster, and, you know, all these roster moves that they do make. And we will do as many rundowns as we can to see who can contribute and who can't. And as for one of those rundowns, I want to get into a guy who the Mets signed yesterday. And that being another reliever, but to a major league contract. So I figured, since I wasn't able to do one lined up properly for a guy named Richard Lovelady, I will do one for the guy they just signed yesterday, who is right-hander Zach Pop. Now, when this pops up on the screen, no pun intended, right? You may notice some really, really ugly numbers that we saw from Zach Pop in Seattle this year. A earned run average over 13 and a half earned run average, 5 home runs per 9. Obviously a small sample size, so let's not say, he's just completely, he just was a complete worse reliever. It's a small sample. However, this has kind of been the norm for him recently, which is the main reason as to why I'm wondering why this was one of their main thoughts for a major league contract. But we also saw it from Richard Lovelady. They DFA'd him, brought him back on another major league deal. So again, you're looking at endless money with the wallet of Steve Cohen that can give you that flexibility of buyout. But again, with a guy like Zach Pop, he had a breakout year in 2022, which is 3 years ago with Miami and Toronto. I believe that he was traded to Toronto at the trade deadline. A 2.77 earned run average, a 2.96 fielding independent pitching. Across 39 innings, he was great. He was a little banged up, I'm pretty sure. But ever since then, it really has not been great for him. A 6.42 earned run average since then, with 67.1 innings since the beginning of 2023. Now, there is some intriguing tools here. However, it's just not the it's just not the main thing of, yes, it's just not the main thing that you're looking for to just fill a void in the bullpen. But as of right now, they just have no choice. That they really don't have any choice in the matter, because if you want to make trades, you could make trades, but you're going to have a tall ask even for relievers. And the one thing that I want to pop up here, Truro saying Pop's sinker is so good. It is really good. It is a really good sinker. And it seems like the only thing that he has been able to locate properly, which I think is one of the underlying numbers as to why the Mets did sign him. Because this year, even though he's only pitched 5.1 innings, it seems like Pop has had a solid execution of his sinker at 55% usage, which is good. That he throws from a low cut 28 degree arm angle with a glove side sinker, like we just said. But he was getting a really big amount of ground balls. Most of the batted balls that he had, I believe he had, let's see, batted balls. Okay, so of the 24 batted balls put in play, he's always been a ground ball guy. So from what I am seeing right now to the Mets, the impression that I've been getting with all of these additions they've made, the Richard Lovelady and all these other guys, it seems like the Mets right now are desperately trying to chase outs. And the best way to do that is obviously getting ground ball guys. And it's all really just about the execution of the how this stuff lands. He obviously has a harder slider, of course, which has some heavy arm side movement, of course, that he's really struggled to command a little bit. And then he also has a hard cutter, which I think is a little bit more just similar to his slider, just a little bit. Maybe to his sinker, actually. No, there's a lot of separation in between them. So I don't know if it's just reclassified in that way, but he's a 3-pitch guy: sinker, slider, cutter. And again, it's not the biggest woohoo guy. He can top 98 miles an hour. He's been kind of sitting that 95, 96 this year. So maybe they can tap into something, but we're probably talking about a guy who, will be here for a few innings and maybe they just, dispose of him. Who knows? But, these are the types of guys that the Mets are going to have to kind of bring in for the next few weeks to hold things off. And hopefully they get something out of him beforehand. And that's just pretty much it as of right now for a guy like Zach Pop, who has struggled. He was DFA'd by the Mariners. He elected free agency earlier this week, and the Mets ended up picking him up. He's 28 years old. He's not old by any means. He's 6'4". Definitely gets a good amount of extension, I would say, from that kind of sidearm type of movement that he has. So he definitely has tools. This is definitely better stuff than Richard Lovelady. It's better stuff than some other guys who they brought in here, like Jose Castillo. There was another guy that they claimed who I forget who that would be. But again, it seems like the main goal here is to chase outs. That's basically what it has been. Richard Lovelady, sinker baller. Jose Castillo, sinker baller. Zach Pop, sinker baller. So it seems like that's what they are looking for. It seems like the sinker of prioritization with Zach Pop. He wasn't as wild. He was able to throw strikes. It just seemed like the breaking stuff was just getting completely tagged the way that it was. Because like I said, he was having a lot of success utilizing his sinker, but as compared to everything else, he was definitely struggling to get a feel for it. And that's one of the main reasons as to why he had, he's almost a 60% ground ball rate on batted balls. So we'll see what they could possibly do with this. I don't know if they have made a corresponding move for him just yet, but it is a 1-year contract. So they're going to have to put him on the roster. I don't know who that is going to be, but we will see, because with Jose Butto going down, the corresponding move was Chris Devenski. So I don't think that there is a move just yet for a guy like Zach Pop, or they right now are just kind of holding it off so far. Rico Garcia was another one that they called up in wake of the doubleheader, and then I believe that they sent somebody else down. I mean, this active bullpen right now is a little scary when you look at it. Edwin Diaz obviously has been the best that he could possibly be. Ryan Stanek, the most inconsistent reliever on this entire staff. Reed Garrett, it's been rough for him recently, but reliever inconsistency. He obviously had that really, really rough outing. And then the rest of it is, Austin Warren, who had that, that long relief outing after Canning went down with the injury. Richard Lovelady, who's come in some mop-up duty. Chris Devensky, who's a veteran who was on those Astros winning teams, and also was in Houston when David Stearns was originally there. And then Rico Garcia, who has yet to make his Mets debut. He is not pitched in the major leagues since 2023. So the Mets are definitely grasping for something. They need to get something, and someone's going to have to step up, or we are going to have some issues. And it's just a rough predicament that they are in right now. And unfortunately, there really is just not much that they can do. And I think that that's something that Mets fans are getting a little sour on, hearing that. However, it's come to a point where the Mets are just running out of depth. There's not really an opportunity to make any changes. They don't want to completely rush up these guys for things that they are not completely ready for. So there are some decisions that are going to have to be made. I think that the trade deadline, it only makes sense that the Mets do be aggressive, because you have to be aggressive on some point if you're any team, whether it is calling up some of the young guys to see what you have in the major leagues, or being aggressive at the trade deadline, which I think they're going to end up doing. Other stuff about the bullpen, Medina in here saying Budo was on his best run, has not allowed a run since May. That is kind of true. But he was allowing a lot of inherited runners, so they weren't charged to him. But I will tell you right now, Budo recently was doing very, very good. He was one of the most reliable arms that they had in there during this rough stretch. To be honest, it's gone very overshadowed of what we have seen from Jose Budo. And I believe I believe, let's see, I'm pretty sure since the beginning of June, he has allowed 0 earned runs since the beginning of June, which is good. So he's been great in June. And he's been a little bit better with stranding runners as well, pitching from the stretch from the very, very beginning. So it's definitely a tough loss to lose Budo as well. Danel Nunez going down. The Mets are hurting in the bullpen area. There is no way around it. Maybe there is a Ryan Stanek or Maton trade that the Mets try to swing like they did last year, but we will see how they address this going forward. And hopefully, it all resolves itself, because the Mets are going to need this pitching to eventually step up when it does get healthy in order to continue on for a playoff run. So there's definitely some concern there. I'm trying to look and see if there's any other injury stuff that I did miss, because it has just been everybody dropping like flies at the hour, especially in this pitching staff. Jesse Winker, by the way, speaking of hurt guys, Jesse Winker has been playing for Double A Binghamton recently, and I think he has. Let's see, he's been doing pretty well. Let's just say that. Let's see. Let me get a rundown of what he's been doing. So far he's got a home run. He's driven in 5 runs already. He is. Let's see. He is 2 for 6 so far. Obviously, he's played 2 games. He's 2 for 6 so far. Obviously, drawing walks too. So he's definitely working his way back. I don't think we will expect him until after the All-Star game because, again, he is a DH. So the only reps he can get are at the plate. So he's going to want to get an extended period of ABs for him. You'll probably see him get a rehab stint as long as I think Jeff McNeil had, right? Jeff McNeil had a longer rehab stint than usual compared to getting back into game action. Let's see. There was the rehab stint was he played 8 rehab games, and it went from the 11th to the 23rd of April. So again, that's definitely a big chunk of games that he definitely has to get in. We'll see how he progresses in that way. Obviously, a right oblique strain, which was definitely to a little bit higher level of extreme compared to guys like McNeil, the way he did. So maybe there will be a little bit extended period of time in rehab, which we do miss Winker in this lineup to deepen it, not because of him being the otherworld beater that he is, but we definitely do miss his bat in the lineup for some more consistent DH production, which has not been existent since he got hurt. Anyways, let's get into the best way to recap this series, and that being Studs and Duds, everyone's favorite segment. Now, I do want to specify, of course, that I have multiple guys in the stud category, which I do want to give a little bit of a shout out for. I do want to give the first flower here on Peterson, because obviously he gave us a start that was much needed. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't fantastic, but he gave us length. That's what we needed. We didn't get that for about a month, so that was good. But the main stud, I think, is Brandon Nimmo in this series. The grand slam, of course, jumping off all over the incredible arm of Jacob Mezorowski. And then, of course, another home run added on to that. He definitely had a really good series against Milwaukee, and he really has been very, very good recently. Like, he started off the year rough, let's just say that, but he's got his OPS, I think, is almost at 800, nearly 800. It's 777 right now. So, he's getting back to that Nimmo that we know and love, and hopefully from the leadoff spot, he continues to contribute, getting on base multiple times as he did in his vintage days. But overall for Nimmo in this series, he went, 3 for 13. Excuse me, wait, 3 for. Whoops, that's not what I'm supposed to look at. He went 3 for 13, obviously driving in 5 runs, with all being home runs. But he also did play a solid defense in left field too. So again, it's definitely been a really good stretch for Brandon Nimmo. He is starting to show, the Brandon Nimmo that we know that he is capable of being. And since the beginning of June, he's slashing .291, 346. 538, 150 weighted runs created plus. That's the Brandon Nimmo. I mean, that's Brandon Nimmo. That's exactly what we are here to see from him. And he's just definitely started to heat up. In fact, we can even date this one back to the beginning of May 1st, where he is a 136 bat as well. And, batting 275, 342, 490. I mean, he's definitely been good for a good sample of the year, more than the bad, as compared to what he was doing in April, which, I mean, it was brutal. It was definitely brutal to see what Brandon Nimmo was doing, because you saw the batted ball data. He was hitting the ball hard. He was hitting the ball in the air a lot more. but we were also seeing a lot of first pitch swinging. He definitely was kind of in between there. So it's good to see Nimmo kind of regaining that form. Then also realizing that he's not a cleanup hitter also helped. So good to see Brandon Nimmo getting back into form of the Brandon Nimmo we know he is capable of. And the Brandon Nimmo that we also paid $162 million to a couple of off seasons ago. Now, as for the dud category, I think it's very, very easy. Reed Garrett, just a brutal outing in game one, completely taking the team out of a game the way that he did. Obviously, it's a tall order to ask the bullpen every night with the offense inconsistent to hold that lead, but it just wasn't even close. I mean, he basically like threw 4 pitches, like I said earlier on in this episode. He played like 4 pitches, and the game was 6-2. I mean, it just he didn't even work into possibly getting out of the inning. It was just a awful performance completely. And is it possible that we could have swept this series if it wasn't for that Reed Garrett performance? I don't want to do the shoulda, woulda, coulda, but it definitely does factor into it because the Mets were in that game for a majority of the day, majority of that game one of the doubleheader, and it just was not a very, very good performance. It was just it was definitely rough. Let's just say that. So not a great outing for Reed Garrett. Obviously, there's some other guys that we can put into the stat category. Again, Edwin Diaz, great on back-to-back days. Looks very, very sharp. Might be bidding for a all-star selection. Who knows if that happens, but I would love to see it. That's my guy right there. Ryan Stanek as well, that 4-out outing that he had last night. You also can put Vientos in the dud category. D saying this. I definitely agree with that. He had a rough series. He's having a rough stretch, and we did a full rundown of that earlier on in the show. Vientos was definitely a dud in this series. It's you never know in that point. But I'd say that Reed Garrett is definitely the big standout dud of this series. But as for everything else, the last things that I do want to wrap up for this Brewers series, great to see Rhys Hoskins completely silenced throughout this entirety of this series. I don't know if he had a couple hits in there, but it was definitely satisfying, and I know a lot of Mets fans can agree with me of him bat flipping a foul ball last night, and then the next pitch grounding into a double play. I thought that was very, very satisfying. Rhys Hoskins, in a vacuum, I do think he is a solid player. But obviously the way that he rubs Mets fans the wrong way, even back into his Phillies days, I do get it. And to be honest, you get sick of his antics. You definitely do. Bat flipping that, thinking that he took the lead with a big home run, thinking he's the shit the way that he does. It was great to see him humbled there. That was great. Because usually the Mets don't get the upper hand on those either trash talkers or pests or whatever. Usually they're the ones that take it. They were taking it that last time at Citi Field last year, the opening series. Let's not forget the whole thing he had with Jeff McNeil, and then Hoskins basically just killing them. But it was great to see them repeat this NL wildcard matchup and able to take 2 out of 3 once again, because they were able to take 2 out of 3 in that wildcard series as well. So good series all around. Definitely good. But let's get into the fish that they have to fry today as we move forward. We have the Subway Series on tap in less than an hour to kick off from Citi Field. Part 2, the Mets obviously losing 2 out of 3 to the Yankees the last time when it was in the Bronx about a month ago. So definitely some bragging rights to gain back if you actually care about that sort of thing. I just see it as another series. I see it as a opportunity for the Mets to, hopefully show that they can be a winning team with all of these injuries. I don't know. But let's just say the outlook going into this series is rough. I'm not going to say that it's not. I'm not going to sit here and say that it is okay and we are okay with these guys that are going to end up starting for us. But you will see these pitching matchups will be very uneven in overall, in just the overall look for these matchups in caliber. Let's just say that. But going into this series, obviously this Yankees team, they have been struggling just as much as the Mets. The Mets and the Yankees are both 6-14 in their last 20 games. So they're both kind of in that same realm as of right now. But however, here is your pop-up for the pitching probables in this series. Now, this afternoon, Justin Hageman will make the spot start today in place of Paul Blackburn, who just went on the injured list, like we said, with just 6 MLB innings under his belt. He will face the former Met, Marcus Stroman. First pitch is this afternoon at 3:10 Eastern Time, which will be after this stream on SNY. Game 2 will go to Frankie Montas. He'll get the second game, looking to shake off his last start in Pittsburgh. He'll face his former team, the New York Yankees, who traded for him a few years ago, and he'll face the veteran left-hander Carlos Rodon, who is having a really good season. First pitch is tomorrow afternoon at 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY as well. And the series finale right now is lined up for Brandon Waddell, the contact managing lefty who has made quite a bit of bulk outings for the Mets to save the bullpen workload this year. But it looks like he is lined up right now to take the start in Game 3, and he will end up facing the AL Cy Young Award candidate, Max Fried. First pitch is Sunday afternoon at 1:40 Eastern Time on SNY. So again, this is a rough matchup. Let's just say that in the pitching department. So what does that leave us to? That leaves to the fact that this offense is going to have to do its job. They are going to have to take advantage of runners in scoring position. They are going to have to do the best that they can to knock the starters out early. That is the key. Do not rely on the pitching to give you 6 innings of 1-run ball, because most likely it is not going to be there. No disrespect to Brandon Waddell or Justin Hageman today, but we know that they are not the top tier of pitcher that can, match up well with, anybody. These guys were regularly in AAA for a reason. It's not like they are completely useless. They've had some good outings, both of them. But this is against a Yankees lineup that has had quite a season. Let's just say that. It has slowed down recently. Obviously, Aaron Judge pretty much running away with the AL MVP, as he has been doing for these past few years. He has a 235 OPS plus this season, at over 1,200 OPS. I mean, we know this by now. He's already got 31 home runs, 70 runs batted in, already on pace for a 12-win season. We know how good Aaron Judge is. The rest of their lineup, Paul Goldschmidt has cooled off recently. He was off to a really, really hot start, and he's definitely cooled off over these last couple of weeks, especially during this last slump that the Yankees have been in these last 20 games. Jazz Chisholm has been having a really good season as well, a 130 OPS plus. He's been really, really good. Cody Bellinger has started to pick up recently. Ben Rice, somebody who Yankee fans talk about hitting into a lot of hard luck, which is true. He does definitely hit the ball very, very hard. He's been very good. Jason Dominguez has started to come around a little bit, but not to the caliber that he has been recently. And then the rest of the positions, DJ LeMahieu, kind of in his twilight of his career. He's been struggling all year. Anthony Volpe, underperforming. Oswaldo Cabrera, I believe, is injured and out for a very, very long time. Giancarlo Stanton is back, but he has struggled recently. But we all know how Stanton can be the Met killer that he always is. And then, of course, they have the backup catcher, JC Escara. And then, of course, the rotation, where they have 3 guys in this rotation that have all made 18 starts, which is basically the typical rotation turn so far that what we are at right now in the season. They've all made 18 starts. Will Warren hasn't been fantastic. We won't be facing him, so it's not like that really matters. But Marcus Stroman will be making his I don't think it's debut, but he will be just coming back from the injured list. We all know that Marcus Stroman recently has regressed a lot. It'd be nice to rub it in his face, which with how obnoxious he was on his way out of the Mets organization. We've talked about Marcus Stroman so many times before. I'm sure maybe there will be some controversy that we will be talking about next episode. That's just kind of how it goes with Marcus Stroman. That's just it. But Max Fried and Carlos Rodon have been holding down the top of that rotation all year. Both of them with sub 3 earned run averages, actually sub 2.5 right now for Max Fried. Tim Hill, the side-slinging lefty, has been great for them out of the bullpen. Luke Weaver has had another solid season. They've even gotten some solid performances out of the bullpen from guys like Ryan Yarborough. You've even had other guys like, Jonathan Loaizaga has started to pick it up a little bit. Ian Hamilton is another guy in that bullpen. So they definitely have some talent as well. Obviously, the pitching, they're in a little bit more of an advantage as of right now with the current state of the Mets pitching staff. We know that Devin Williams has struggled this year, but he is obviously has some peripherals that it seems like he's going to start to pick it up a little bit, because there's quite a difference between the earned run average and the FIP for him. But we all know that he's definitely had a troublesome season with walks this year. But Mark Leiter Jr., another guy who has been having some great strikeout stuff, but he's also given up a lot of hard contact. So again, this is a Yankees team that's been going through it just like the Mets, but they still have talent on this lineup. I do think right now the offense is in a little bit better of a spot than the Mets right now, and then their pitching staff is a lot more healthier. So again, this is going to be a battle. And hopefully the Mets can come out on top. I am hoping that they can take 2 out of 3. Sweep would be awesome, but 2 out of 3 would be ideal. It looks like 50% of you are saying that the Mets are going to take 2 out of 3. 25% of you are the Mets saying that the Mets are going to sweep. 15% of you are saying that the Yankees are going to take 2 out of 3, and 10% of you are saying that the Yankees are going to sweep. So it looks like there's, a dispersity of what everybody thinks. Both of these teams are in a not a tailspin, but they've both been struggling recently. I believe the Yankees are coming off of a 4-game series of getting swept by the Blue Jays, as to where they were overtaken by first place in the AL East. So again, it's been rough for the Yankees as much as it's been rough for the Mets. Obviously, I feel a little bit more for the Mets right now, because they are my team. And then, there's also the Yankees of, it's pretty hard to feel bad for them. But both of them were knocked out of first place this last week. Both of them are 6-14 in the last 20 games, like I said. So it should be an interesting matchup of, who's available and who performs. Obviously, the Subway Series is always fun, no matter who is available or not, with the recent star power that the Mets have added, having Lindor and Soto and Alonso, of course, Aaron Judge on the other side. There's star power in this series that should be on display, as compared to, the early 2010s. I don't even want to mention any of the names of some of the guys we were playing, even on both sides, of guys who just were not that good. But right now, you have a top-heavy lineup for the Mets, and they're going to have to step up, especially with the pitching situation. And hopefully we will have some wins to discuss going forward. And I am definitely excited to get to this trade deadline. I'm excited to get to this All-Star break as well. Congratulations to Francisco Lindor, by the way, on being named the starting shortstop for the National League in the 2025 All-Star Game. Juan Soto just named Player of the Month for the month of June after that great stretch that he had. Some other things, Donovan Walton, a guy who was with us in spring training, who's in AAA, he was traded to the Philadelphia Phillies for some cash. Colin Poche, the left-hander that we had in Pittsburgh, who basically blew up. He cleared waivers and he elected free agency. So definitely some transactions that have been in the process for this team. It's been definitely a rough go of it recently, whether it is injuries or overall inconsistencies. So hopefully the Mets can build on these back-to-back wins that they had against Milwaukee going into the Subway Series, which is about to start up in about a half an hour. So I will let you guys go and send you guys out to Citi Field for Mets versus Yankees in a half of hour. And I'm going to cut the show right here, obviously, at an hour and a half. Usually it goes 2 hours, but it's only me here. And I would like to save my voice for the rest of the week. So again, Mets versus Yankees, always fun. This should be a blast as per usual. We know the trash talk. We know all of it fairly well. And it is back once again, this time on 4th of July. Happy 4th of July to everybody as well. I've kind of noticed that we don't have as many people speaking in the chat, so probably there's people just listening to us live and not really commenting because they're probably with their families or celebrating some stuff at 4th of July. Again, I wish this was not the day and not the time that we went live, but that's kind of just how the schedule met things up for the next day. So either way, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Thank you guys for those of you watching or listening on playback. You want to join the conversation live in the future, make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel. Turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. Make sure to follow us on follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok, which mainly features my co-host Frank About Sports and his post-game reactions instantly after every regular season game, titled The Mets Frankly Postgame. Follow all of us individually, including my co-hosts Frank and Andrew, who are not here today. And finally, of course, going back to the Subway Series, looking to build on back-to-back wins. And hoping to get out of this full rut that they have been in recently over these last few weeks. 12 games over 500, second place. Let's hope to keep it going, hope to build on it, build some consistency. Let's go Mets, and we will see you guys